This week on The Record, does Vice President Kamala Harris really want to ban X? We check the record. Why are dozens of prison guards falling ill in Illinois? What hazmat crews were looking for inside a Randolph County State Prison? Attack ads saturate the airwaves in the Missouri Senate race. Will we see Josh Hawley and Lucas Kunce debate? Democratic nominee Lucas Kunce is on the record. It's all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. The Missouri Senate race is heating up with just 8 weeks and 2 days until Election Day. Campaigns for Josh Hawley and Lucas Kunce are peppering airwaves with attack ads, and a new super PAC that can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money is pumping more than $1 million into ad campaigns to boost Hawley's re-election chances. Federal election records show donors from New York, Kansas, Florida, Texas, and Missouri putting their money into the Show Me Strong PAC. The big spending signals a heavy blitz of ads, many of them scheduled to run on these airwaves, even as the two candidates running cannot agree on a debate. The race is starting to mirror a trend that was described in 2022 this way in a New York Times article. Candidates for senator or governor routinely used to participate in 2 or 3 debates. Now, some are skipping them altogether. Retail politicking at diners and state fairs is no longer the cliche it was for generations, and town hall meetings where citizens get to question their elected leaders and those running to replace them have given way to the online echo chamber. So, do candidates still have a duty to debate? Will voters still demand it? The Democratic nominee for Senate, Lucas Kunce, is now on the record from the road in Kansas City. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Your opponent, Senator Josh Hawley, says he expects he'll participate in some debates at some point in the future. But just this week, another broadcast company's deadline to accept those terms came and went. You had agreed to their invitation. He did not. What's the hang-up?
Well, I challenged him to 5 debates televised for the whole world to see on a bunch of different stations. Said we'd do it on Fox News if that would make him feel more comfortable. I've accepted every single one that's come out, and he hasn't accepted any of them. So when he says he expects to do one of these, I'd be really surprised if that were the case. He doesn't want to answer the hard questions about what he's done in office. That's why he's not going to do it.
I know there was a lot of back and forth at the Missouri State Fair about whether that proposed debate was legal, whether it was televised, all that. But set aside all the semantics, why didn't you just call his bluff and get up there on the trailer and go toe-to-toe with him?
The State Fair asked us not to debate there, and I respected their decision. And so, the thing is that Missouri voters, they should have the right to hear from us, hear from both of us, see what's going on, and see what the real contrast is between us. Like, Josh Hawley doesn't want that to happen, and so, that's why I've agreed to these 5 televised debates, and that's why he won't do any of them.
While this holding pattern continues, let's simulate something of a debate here. I want to ask your response to some of these ads, some of these discussions and talking points that you might see should you get on that debate stage with him. Right now, a Hawley ad attacks you for opposing construction of a border wall. The Biden administration has continued that construction in the years since he initially opposed it, and Vice President Kamala Harris now says she would continue it after initially calling it un-American. Is she wrong now, or was she wrong then?
See, this is exactly why Josh Hawley won't debate. Before I led a police training team in Iraq as a U.S. Marine, I trained with the Border Patrol at our southern border. As far as I know, I'd be the only member of the U.S. Senate who's actually been certified by the Border Patrol Tactical Unit. There are real clear solutions for what we need to do about this border crisis. We need to stop the flow of fentanyl, we need to end catch and release, and we need to fully fund and equip Border Patrol. Josh Hawley doesn't stand for any of those things. He voted against funding for fentanyl scanners. He voted against Republican Roy Blunt's bill that Donald Trump eventually signed into law, funding Border Patrol. And just this year, he voted against a bill endorsed by the guys who trained with me down at the border to secure the border and fully fund Border Patrol. He wants to keep us unsafe, so he has this as a campaign issue rather than actually solve the problem, which is what I'm going to do when I get in the U.S. Senate.
That bill you're discussing, I believe, would have also included funding for a border wall. So is your position today that you would vote for continuing the construction of a border wall if it came with those other things you just mentioned?
Like I said, we need to secure the border. I'm the only person who's running for this office who's going to vote to secure the border, period. He's voted against funding for it 3 times already. He will not fund it. In fact, you talk about border wall, he voted against funding 55 miles of border wall that Donald Trump signed. The guy is a fraud. He doesn't want to talk about these issues in a debate because he knows he's going to get exposed on them, and that's why he's just doing false attack ads against me nonstop. and hoping that that convinces people instead.
I understand your competition with him electorally, but to voters who might be curious about your evolution on this issue, why did you change your position?
Like I said, we need to secure the border. I stand for that. I've trained with the Border Patrol. I'm certified by the Border Patrol Tactical Unit. I understand the crisis that we have at the border. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, and I'm the only person who's going to do anything to make it safe.
All right, on a similar topic, the same Hawley ad also attacks you for supporting a pathway to citizenship for undocumented migrants. Part of the bipartisan border bill would have sped up the line, as it were, for people to get processed into the country legally. Is it your view that people who came here illegally can be processed at the same time as those who are trying to get in through the legal process, or should they have to leave the country through deportation and get back in line?
Look, I think we should have an orderly, fair process, and that begins and ends with fully funding and equipping the Border Patrol. Like, we have to fully fund and equip Border Patrol. Right now, we can't even begin talking about processing claims because there's no money down there, right? Like, the bill was going to bring in 1,300 new Border Patrol agents. We don't have that because Josh Hawley voted against it. And so, like, getting into all these details, is irrelevant. We have to fund and equip them first. We got to stop the flow of fentanyl. We got to put the fentanyl scanners in there, and we got to, do frontline triage and then get to the rest of it.
I'd say it's relevant in terms of voters knowing where you stand on the issue. I would just put on that topic. But let's shift gears. There's a separate ad. This deals to Americans' pocketbooks, to energy production. You wrote a piece 3 years ago. This is now the subject of a Josh Hawley ad. You said that America's, quote, oil addiction had dragged us into costly, deadly wars. You suggested we should, quote, ditch all fossil fuels, not just oil, and we should be accelerating the transition to electric vehicles. Now, you've already said that Josh Hawley's ad claiming that you want to take trucks off the road is wrong. My question is, how is it wrong, and what did you really mean there?
Well, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? I've been endorsed by the auto workers who make the Ford F-150 right here in Missouri. I got a Chevy Traverse in my driveway. What I am talking about is beating China in the next generation of energy, right? That's what I want America to do. I want us to be first in literally everything. As a Marine, my last tour of duty was at the Pentagon. I actually extended a year to work in the Trump administration's Undersecretary of Defense's office for research and engineering. That's how important putting America first in everything is to me. And one of the things we found is that America is behind in the next generation of energy because we've been doing things like spending money on wars for oil. We've been supporting a cartel, a multinational cartel that includes the Saudis, the Venezuelans, and these multinational companies who don't care about us, rather than investing in our future. And what you see right now is by making those mistakes, we have let China get ahead in the next generation of energy and manufacturing, and it's costing us. It's costing us big time. So what I want to do is bring that back. I want to invest right here in Missouri. I want to put Missouri first in the generation of the next generation of energy. Josh Hawley doesn't care about that, right? Again, he doesn't care about keeping us safe. He doesn't care about America's national security future. All he cares about is keeping issues for his campaigns.
I hear my last question for you. The themes of your campaign in 2024, family values, America first, protecting the border, these things sound like parts of Donald Trump's campaign messaging. So the direct question, do you want Kamala Harris to win in November?
Like I said, I'm going to work with anyone to make this happen, right? I'm not worried about these other races. I'm focused on my race. What I want to do is deliver for Missouri. Josh Hawley refuses to bring back the $350 million every single year to this state that Roy Blunt brought back every year, right? He votes against investment in this state over and over and over again. He voted against building out our infrastructure. He voted against building out the next generation of American manufacturing and energy here. He voted against $600 million going to machinist plants in Missouri, in West Plains, and outside of St. Louis. That is that man's legacy, all while he's taking away our rights, getting rich in office, and stealing $250,000 of taxpayer money to cover up for his own law breaking, right? That's wrong. Missourians don't believe in those values, and it's why we're going to win this November.
And we hope to ask him about those parts of his record on this program, perhaps on a debate stage. Lucas Kunce, we appreciate you showing up to answer these questions on the campaign trail. Just about 8 weeks to go until Election Day. Thanks for joining us. It looks like a new sheriff is coming to town next year. A recount for the St. Louis City Sheriff's race has Vernon Betts still behind. Betts challenged the results of last month's primary, in which he lost to Alfred Montgomery. And then this week, the St. Louis Board of Elections recapped a two-day process, rescanning all those ballots through the tabulators. Montgomery maintaining his lead. He's calling the recount a win. The recount showed Betts now trailing by at least 221 votes. The Missouri Attorney General continues to challenge the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan in its ongoing iteration. This week, Attorney General Andrew Bailey announced they received a temporary restraining order blocking Biden's cancellation plan. Missouri is one of several states attempting to block it. And in other news, this week, the Missouri House staged a hearing on illegal immigrant crimes. That was the official title of the hearing. House Speaker Dean Plocher scheduled that meeting prior to losing his bid for Secretary of State in the August primary race. So Democrats called the hearing politically charged. A lot of local immigration advocates showed up to express their concerns, while some lawmakers stressed the need for stricter border security. Earlier this year, both senators from Missouri, Eric Schmitt and Josh Hawley, opposed a bipartisan border bill that had Republican support initially until Donald Trump urged them to kill it. Vice President Kamala Harris is pledging to pass that if she gets elected. Some Republicans, like Schmitt, have argued that a president can act already, but only in a temporary fashion. Of course, it takes Congress to make immigration law permanent. We're back after the break. Scary scenes unfolding inside an Illinois prison. Could a mystery substance be spreading behind bars? Nearly 24 guards have fallen ill and been taken to area hospitals over the span of the last 2 weeks. An investigation inside the Menard Correctional Center in Randolph County remains ongoing as a parade of hazmat and health officials from the CDC, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and a poison control center try to figure out what's causing these phantom symptoms. Officers and at least one inmate have reported elevated heart rates, rashes, headaches. So far, all of them have been treated and released. Illinois State Senator Terry Bryan, a former corrections officer, is now on the record. Senator, good to have you with us. You tried to get into that prison in Chester in the last week or so, but were denied entry. The facility was on a level 1 lockdown at the time, so perhaps it makes sense they wouldn't let you in. But what would you be looking for if you were in there?
Well, first, it doesn't make sense because I'm a 20-year veteran of the Department of Corrections, so I can't even count anymore the number of times that I've been in a facility when they were on a level 1 lockdown. But I actually went there that day, not because of what you just described, but because I received a text message saying that they were sending Chief Crum to the facility to find out if there was a carbon monoxide exposure, that maybe that's what was causing the illness. So I went to find out if they were doing some kind of evacuation in regard to that, only to find out, I believe, that they were using that to mask what's really going on.
And there's been no full evacuation. They have given out PPE a number of different times, but protective measures.
Yeah, so they're offering it voluntarily, which again begs the question of why would they not let me in? In my 20 years in corrections, I was trained for hazmat clothing. I offered to wear PPE. In the conversation with Chief Crum and with the assistant warden, they indicated that they were not mandating staff to wear PPE, and when I said I was willing to wear PPE, they still said that I couldn't get in. So it really doesn't make sense to, if it was a different legislator, I could see how that might be a problem, but initially they were going to let me in. And then a phone call was made to the deputy director, because that's procedure, and it was the deputy director, Angela Locke, who refused me entrance. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
So whoever is to gain access inside of there, we really want to find out what's going on, who's at risk, what is the risk. Mm-hmm. And I think for this to persist for 2 weeks is starting to become a bigger question mark. We know that prison guards and staff did locate what they're calling some form of synthetic marijuana last Saturday, but health officials have not yet, they tell us, they've not yet positively identified that as the link to some of these different symptoms. How hard is it, you worked in this capacity, how hard is it just to keep controlled substances out of prisons?
Well, it's difficult right now because they don't scan the mail going in. And I don't think scanning the mail is the end-all to beat-all. I mean, there's other things that have to be taken care of. For instance, just until a few years ago, you couldn't take your own kitchen utensils into the facility. So like a dish or a thermal mug was not allowed to go in, because we saw in the early 90s that they caught multiple individuals taking drugs into the facility, like in the bottom of their thermal cup. So they'd have drugs and then they'd have some ice on top of it. So that all stopped. Recently, the present leadership, administration, and Department of Corrections has been allowing that. So there are multiple things that have to happen here. But Mark, I also want to go back to how many you said have gone to the hospital. To date, there's almost 36 who have gone to the hospital, and those include an EMT responder last Monday. So the ambulance personnel that responded also had some kind of exposure. There were multiple employees who are medical professionals at the facility who also were exposed. And so it's much larger than just it being officers. And
you're hearing from a lot of different people. You have
I have
former
some-
coworkers, you have people, you
Yes,
have constituents,
yes.
voters of yours.
Yes.
So you hear from a lot of the people maybe in the union.
Yeah,
The
union
number that
and
the state
non-union.
provided was 22, the last I had heard. But so you have reason to believe that. How confident are you that the state is telling us the full picture of what they know?
I'm not confident at all. I have documentation that shows that this is prevalent throughout the entire institution. In
Not
fact,
just in Menard?
Not just at Menard. It's happened at Big Muddy. It's happened at Pinckneyville. In fact, staff member told me that
These same symptoms or something
the
different?
same symptoms. One report that I have shows that one offender had 8 partially smoked cigarettes in his cell, and they were all laced with K2. So it's coming in rampant all over the department.
Part of this is just happening now. You're also raising this issue now, but I don't want this to sound like a callous question, but hasn't this been a persistent, pressing issue for as long as we can remember?
So in some form or fashion, but I can tell you when I retired from corrections 10 years ago, that if you found a cell phone in an institution, the entire institution would be shut down. Because you can photograph where the security cameras are. You can have, in fact, there's one report that I'm going to make available to you that shows that there was a cell phone where an offender was communicating with the outside world to make plans for drug drops and so forth.
In the few seconds we have left here, what's the fix? I mean, are you just hoping to get the answers, or are you hoping to provide a solution?
I think the fix is for Governor Pritzker to step in at this point and make a change from top to bottom in Department of Corrections in the administration. We've asked him to replace the director. She's a lovely person, but wholly inadequate for the job that she has been tasked to do. And if Governor Pritzker does not step in at this point, I would ask the federal government to step into the Illinois Department of Corrections. It's that serious.
Senator Terry Bryant, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Powerful people are willing to pay a lot of money to get your attention. The Department of Justice just this week brought felony charges against 2 covert foreign agents in Russia for conspiring with right-wing social media influencers in America, who the DOJ alleges knowingly took $10 million from them. The indictment alleges they disguised those payments using fake personas to funnel the money through shell companies, all for pumping their social media feeds full of inflammatory videos intended to, quote, amplify domestic divisions in the United States. Actual fake news, literally bought and paid for. The owners of that company claim they were the victims here. But what about the people in their audience clicking on those videos, watching them? On the day of the indictment, that company shared this video from 2019 under the misleading caption, Kamala Harris has a problem with Elon Musk's X.
He has lost his privileges and it should be taken down.
Maybe you saw that same short clip, obviously edited to remove the portion that came right before it. It was going viral online. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reshared it too. In fact, he explicitly said Kamala Harris was talking about Elon Musk. Here's the problem. That video aired on CNN, October 15, 2019, when she was a senator running for president. Elon Musk didn't own Twitter at the time, Jack Dorsey did. And she wasn't talking about either of them. The former prosecutor was talking about then President Donald Trump. She argued he was violating Twitter's private terms of service.
I say this as a former prosecutor. You have to take seriously witness intimidation. You have to take seriously an attempt to obstruct justice. You have to take seriously a threat to a witness and really to their safety and potentially their life. And when you're talking about Donald Trump, he has 65 million Twitter followers. He has proven himself to be willing to obstruct justice, just ask Bob Mueller. We're talking about a private corporation, Twitter, that has terms of use. And as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people would say, including members of Congress who he has threatened, that he has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power.
So we checked the record to show you the full context. Now, you can disagree with Senator Kamala Harris's position at the time. Jack Dorsey did. You can argue a senator running for president shouldn't apply that kind of public pressure on a big company, though Missouri argued something similar in court, and the conservative majority Supreme Court, they didn't agree that it was a violation of the First Amendment when the Biden administration asserted that kind of pressure in private years later during the pandemic. But most of all, remember this. When you see partisan operatives blatantly and repeatedly lying to you about when something was said, distorting why it was said at all, or completely twisting or disguising the context to confuse you and make you angry, why would you ever trust them again? Be on the lookout for people trying to trick you over these next several weeks. This won't be the last time. That's all of our time this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here at the same time next week. Until then, we're off the record.